This is part 2 in the rounding decimals unit. It is called Your Turn, and the way this will work is I will present one question to you at a time. I will show you the question. I will then ask you to pause your video and practice on your own, and then I will ask you to resume the video to see if your answer was correct. So for number 1, I'm going to ask you to find a number that can fit between 27 hundredths and 35 hundredths. Go ahead and pause your video. Alright, for this question you should have noticed that there were 0 holes in both numbers, so your answer must have 0 holes. You're looking for something that would fall between essentially 27 and 35. We look at them as whole numbers simply because it's easier that way, and then once we have the decimal point in front of it, it obviously stands for parts of a whole. So I could start with anything from 28 hundredths all the way to 34 hundredths. Of course, anything in between there would be okay. Like 29 hundredths, 32 hundredths, and so forth. Number 2 is going to ask you to round 5.29 to the nearest tenth. Pause your video. Right, for this one, you should have underlined the tenths place because that's what it's asking you to round to. You should have drawn an arrow to the neighbor, which is the 9. You analyze the 9. 9 is higher than 5, so it tells the 2 to round up. So your answer should be 5.3. Another acceptable answer would be 5 wholes and 3 tenths. Another acceptable answer would be 5.30, putting a 0 as a placeholder for the 9. That would also be okay. They all are the same value. Number 3 asks you to write 2 numbers that would round to 1.9. Pause your video. All right, for this question, you have a couple of options. You could choose a number that is larger, such as 1.91. Okay, the 1 would make the 9 stay the same. This is the same all the way up until 1.94, where the 4 would make the 9 stay at rest. You could also choose a number such as 1.87, where the 7 would make the 8 round up to a 9. Also 1.88 would have the same effect, where the 8 makes the 8 round up to a 9. You could choose something along those lines. For number 4, you're going to use the following digits to create a number that rounds to 8.7. So please pause your video. Okay, so for this question, you could have chosen a small number such as 8.716, where the 1 allows the 7 to stay at rest. You also could have used all of the digits here by just placing these digits at the end. Technically, none of these digits matter because you're only rounding down here to the tenths place, so you could put these in any order and it would be acceptable. Another option is you could write the number 8.6751, and the 7 here would make the 6 round up to a 7, and once again these could be in any order because once you analyze the tenths and the hundredths place, none of the other numbers orders matter. Right, and finally, I would like you to write 14 and 92 hundredths to the nearest whole number. Pause your video. Alright, for this one, you should have underlined the number that it asked you to round to, or the place that asked you to round to. In this case, it was a 14. Okay, so in that case, we're going to draw the arrow to the 9, which is in the tenths place. The 9 makes the digit round up, so the answer should be 15, and no parts of a whole. Another acceptable answer would just be the flat number 15. Another acceptable answer would be 15 and 0 tenths. Those 0 placeholders hold 0 value, so any of those numbers are acceptable. Thanks for practicing.